On to question 3 then. Jack Lecoq even, is asking, how many songs should we add to our EP? We have 4 and are thinking about adding a 5th track to show off our diversity. What are the benefits of adding more songs?
Okay, so I had a quick chat with Jack this week on Facebook. I thought this was a very, very interesting question. How many songs? Because we haven't got loads and loads of money. So firstly, before we make that decision, one thing I'd say is, what are we using the EP for? Because that's the crucial thing. Because if we're not thinking of that, if we're not thinking of the audience, then we're thinking about ourselves. We want to put more songs on because that's exciting for us. We want to show off our diversity, which I'll come to in a minute because that's a slightly separate thing. But when it comes to how many songs on there, what are we using it for? If we're going to sell it, an extra song, might make it more value for money depending on how much you're putting on there. If you're looking to build an audience, so if you haven't got a big audience, what's the point in selling it? So in which case you're looking at building an audience. If you're going to do that, if you're going to build an audience, then does it make any difference between 4 and 5? So I think this is quite an interesting question. One of the things I thought was very interesting was the diversity thing. Now, I think you have to be very, very careful with diversity in a band, because if you say, if you're an actor and you say, look at my range, I can do this at a role, I can do this role, and I can do this role. Well, in a band, you're not trying to do that. You're trying to say, this is who we are, this is what we stand for, this is real. And if you say, but also we could do a funk track, also we can do a rock track, also we could do a jazz track, your audience won't understand, because, for the audiences that like Damn Dice, which is like, it's rock and roll, it's rock, and so their audience is going to like that. If they say, but we sometimes delve into a little bit of funk, the audience, like me, will go, well, I'm not a fan of funk, but I love this. So all of a sudden that diversity actually goes against you a little bit. So I'd be careful of being too diverse with your stuff. I think it's more interesting to have a message and stand for something. And so then when it comes to how many songs that you put on, I don't think it actually makes that much difference. But what does make a difference is how much money you've got. So if you are going into the studio and you've got as much money as you need, then you've got this song that you really, really think needs to go on there, then you can put it on. If you have only got a certain amount of time in the studio and you're looking at adding an extra song, I absolutely wouldn't do that. In fact, what would be more important is to have one song. You can do a lot of damage with one song. So it doesn't need to have more songs. I don't think anyone's going to be more excited to buy or have your EP with an extra song. If you're looking at it and thinking, but the 4 songs we've got are just absolutely solid gold, and we've got this 5th song which is absolutely solid gold, and we can go in the studio for some more time and we have got the money, then there's no harm in doing it. But for me, I'd probably stick to 4. And I'd probably pick the best ones. There's always going to be a temptation in a band on a live gig and with an album and with a single to add. Always. There's always going to be that ad. There's going to be a time where you just go, we could do 25 minutes of a live show, but we could do 40. Bet you the 25 minutes live show will be better than the 40-minute live show, and people would appreciate the 25 minutes more. Who's going to appreciate the 40 minutes more? The band. So it's a selfish, personal decision that you're taking. When it comes to the EP, that 4-track EP, with the best tracks that you've possibly got, is enough. People are going to appreciate that. And then 6 months later, you do the second EP, and if that song is still as good as you think it is, you put it on the next EP. So I'd probably stick to 4. I don't think there's any reason for it to go to 5, unless you've already recorded the 4, they're already done, you've got this new song, and it's better than anything you've got before, and then, okay, maybe. But other than that, no reason to have the 5th. I'd be very careful of diversity. I don't think, if by diversity you mean in styles, I don't think people buy into diversity with bands. And if you look at bands that have tried it down the line, there's not been many. In fact, there's been very few that have come anywhere close to being successful, because when traditionally people will go into HMV or they'll go onto Spotify and they'll type in the genre they like, there isn't a miscellaneous section. So therefore you've got to be very, very careful. People like what they like. And if you try and cross too many genres, and I don't mean saying we're a funk rock band, because that's one thing, but if you're a funk band and you play rock, then that's 2 separate things. You've got to be quite careful with that.
Yeah, it muddles the brand a little bit. Would you say as well, like, if you released a 4-song EP, it would maybe be good to save the 5th one as a single release once the momentum of the EPs maybe died down a bit?
Yeah, this is quite interesting. I mean, the good thing with where we're at the moment is there's no rules. I love the fact that there's no rules. So this idea of an EP or an album, fuck that. If you want to put out 7 songs, you put out 7 songs. If you want to put out 2 songs, you put out 2 songs. What you call it makes no difference whatsoever. Your job is always to look after the audience. And the way you look after the audience is by making great content. Now, this idea that you have to put a release out, which has to be an album, and then people will go and do something with the album, and then over the next 6 months, you do another one. Or you write an amazing song. You go, fuck, we've written an amazing song. You go in the studio, you record it, and you put it out. And then 3 months later, you go, fuck, we've just written an amazing song. Let's do it again. Why not? You can put out a song a day, you can put out a song a week, you can put out a song a month. We are living in a time where the rules are gone because it is all about you taking control, you having your audience. Now, if you sign up with a major label, they'll have their ways of doing it and their systems, which is slightly different. But if you're a DIY band building an audience and putting music out yourself, an EP can be 45 songs if you want. You can do whatever you want because there's no such thing anymore. An album is this. This is actually this is an EP because it's got a song on it. But technically, this can be whatever I say it is. This is an album because it's a CD. I'm putting a CD player. So I think it's really important to stop thinking of these rules of what that is. There's no such thing nowadays as as a traditional album, because the reason why we had traditional albums was because the amount of physical time you could get onto a vinyl and then the amount of physical time that you could get onto a CD. So if you can get 70 minutes onto a CD and you divide that up and go, it works out at 12 songs. So people go, well, traditionally between 10 and 12 songs is an album. Music is free. Music is in the air. So if you want to put an album out with 179 songs on it, you can do that. Whatever you want to do now, there is no rules. So how many songs you put out is completely up to you. And if you want to put out an EP with 2 songs, call it an EP, call it an album, it doesn't make a difference. It's just music now.